A pregnant she-wolf came crying to the ranger's house. Her cubs were in bad shape, and there was only one thing left. We tend to believe that animals are beings without any kind of intelligence, that only act by instinct. But stories like these show us that this thought could be getting outdated, as in recent years we have seen demonstrations of intelligence by animals that we did not expect. This is the story of a she-wolf who knew where she had to go to save not only her own life, but that of her offspring. Our story today takes place in Castilla y León, Spain, a place known for currently having 1,600 wolves, according to the regional census of Iberian wolves, a number of which Ramón Barrios, the protagonist of this story, is well aware of, since this man of about 45 years works as a full-time forest ranger in the northern part of the country. However, he is not alone. He lives with his wife and his beloved dog. Ramón could not be happier with his chosen profession, as he considered himself a loyal nature lover, and being a ranger gave him the opportunity to contribute as much as possible to the wildlife and forest around him. One night, as he and his wife slept in their bedroom, he felt his dog Spock lick his hand that had been left outside the bed. This was a very unusual behavior from the dog. When the dog noticed that his owner woke up, his body language let Ramón know that something was going on, and he wanted him to follow him. The man got out of bed and paid attention to his pet. He knew his dog. He knew he wouldn't wake him up in the middle of the night for nothing. He had probably seen something that he wanted to warn his owner about. When he got up, he said to his wife, "You stay in bed. I'm going to see what's going on outside." He put on his boots, grabbed his coat, and of course took his house gun in case something bad came up. This was a place where wild animals could be encountered, so it was best to be safe. Ramón followed Spock to the chicken coop. Perhaps Spock was trying to tell him that a chicken had escaped. The man could tell his pet was feeling anxious the whole walk. The man asked, "What's the matter, boy? I've never seen you so nervous." Once he arrived at the chicken coop, he could tell there was a trail of blood at the entrance. Whatever was bleeding was undoubtedly inside the place where the man was raising his chickens. Perhaps a bear had sneaked in and was eating his chickens, so the man readied his gun and slowly walked inside, watchful for any danger, keeping Spock behind him. He didn't want to put his pet in danger. When the man turned on the light bulb, he was met with a big surprise. On the floor, hidden in a corner, was a she-wolf breathing heavily. The she-wolf saw him and made no gesture to indicate to the ranger that she was ready to attack him. This man had been working in this field for years, so he could easily recognize the behavior of the animals. Behind him, he could hear how Spock kept growling at the she-wolf. Ramón calmed his dog down. He quickly understood what the wolf was doing, and the animal had a wound on its paw, probably a cut, so it was bleeding quite a bit. It was not a fatal wound, but it did need to be treated soon. This wound was the reason why the wolf had come to the forester's house. When Ramón approached to see the wound, he noticed something else that would further explain the wolf's frantic cry for help. The animal's breasts were swollen, indicating that she was pregnant, but he could also see from her belly that she was close to giving birth. With a wound like this, the she-wolf could die in labor, greatly harming her cubs, who without a mother to care for and feed them could also die soon after. Ramón was moved by this mother. He searched for her materials and began to treat her paw in that very spot under the moonlight in the middle of the night. The forester's job had no hours when it came to helping animals. Soon after, Ramón's wife came out of the house, worried because her husband had not returned to bed. The woman walked to the chicken coop, only to find, to her surprise, that her husband was very calmly healing a wolf's leg. The woman was a little startled at first, but it was not uncommon to see her husband helping an animal in need. Once he finished healing the animal, Ramón allowed her to stay in the hen house while her wound healed. The next day, he would bring her food to make her stay more comfortable. And so, the forester went back to bed with his wife that night, and the next day, there was the she-wolf welcoming him with a little howl that could be interpreted as a rather friendly good morning. Ramón placed some food down for her and spoke to the she-wolf. "You can stay as long as your labor lasts. Just don't eat the chickens." The man smiled as he uttered these last words, although he really hoped that the wolf had understood. A couple of weeks passed, and the coexistence between this family and the she-wolf became more pleasant. The ranger had set up a sort of small house for this mother-to-be so that she would be comfortable when she gave birth, and her paw was completely healed. During all this time, the she-wolf had behaved excellently, as if she were just another dog. Ramon wanted to believe that this was her way of thanking him for saving her and her children. Finally, the day of the birth arrived. Ramon's wife wanted to help the wolf, and the ranger reassured her. "No, honey, we must let nature act on its own. She already knows what she has to do. Let's just leave her alone so she can live her process as nature would." Whether this was the right decision or not, the woman heeded her husband and together left the coop. The she-wolf was left alone to begin her labor. They were able to help her by going to the nearby town to buy some milk for the puppies that were on their way. When they returned home, they were met with the pleasant surprise that the she-wolf had already given birth to 4 little cubs. Moments like these were the ones that motivated Ramon to continue doing his work, as it was thanks to him that these 4 puppies were born into the world. The woman was moved when she saw these 4 little gray wolves next to their mother feeding. Tears came down her eyes. The she-wolf was exhausted, but satisfied. Now, she had to prepare herself for the great challenge of being a mother and caring for her children. Another few weeks passed, and the ranger continued to help the she-wolf with feeding her and her puppies. Even Spock could be seen as a father figure to these puppies. The old dog played with the little ones, and they kept following him everywhere. Once the she-wolf was fully recovered and her puppies were big enough to walk, she knew she had to return to her habitat. The farewell was tremendously emotional. The she-wolf approached the man who had helped her and gave him a few loving licks and allowed each of her offspring to say goodbye to this family that had taken them in so lovingly. You could see the sadness of Spock, who somehow knew he was saying goodbye to this family. Ramon tenderly petted all the puppies and the wolf and said goodbye to them, telling them they could come back whenever they wanted. He wasn't sure if they would understand, but it wouldn't be the first time an animal surprised him with its intelligence and ability to understand human words. In the end, the farewell was simply a see you later and not a forever. For as the months went by and the cubs, now bigger, could be seen dropping by the ranger in his family's house from time to time, they still took the time to play even though they had outgrown him. Occasionally, Ramon would find previously hunted rabbits on his doorstep, and once he even encountered a wild boar. Clearly, these were gifts from this family of wolves who still thanked the ranger for the noble act he did when they needed him the most. And these types of stories show us how animals are not the non-thinking beings that many believe them to be. These great creations are often more grateful than humans themselves because they act without any malice or ulterior motives. The world would be a better place if we could learn from animals, or even people like Ramon Barrios. This was today's video of the day, and now it's your turn to answer these questions. Did you like Ramon's bond with nature? Would you be able to have such a strong love for everything that surrounds us? Do you think that wolves can be very dangerous animals? Leave your opinion in the comments. You can also take the opportunity and leave us your like to let us know that you are liking our content, and we will continue making more videos of this type.